Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 249, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry. I have a personal Fiber Nymph account on Instagram, and my business account on Instagram is Fiber Nymph Dyeworks. So feel free to follow me in any of those locations. We also have a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks group on Ravelry and a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks page on Facebook, and of course there's the 90% Knitting group on Ravelry, which is usually where I post show notes for my episodes as well as other information related to the podcast. I can tell you it is unlikely that I will have show notes for this episode because I'm not really even working from show notes today. I was not sure that I was even going to get to record this week. It's sort of, I feel like I say it's a crazy week every time I record because every week is busy, but this week has extra elements of busy and crazy. So I hate to not record one week because if I let it go to 2 weeks, it feels like I have so much to talk about and then the episodes get to be unwieldy, and I didn't want that. So I'm basically going to hit the highlights for you this week because I have a ton of things I need to get done today, all of which I will tell you a little bit about later on. But yeah, I'm going to try to at least get some stuff covered this week so that next week when I record, I will not be inundating you with a million and one things. I would like to welcome Tammy from Maryland, though. She introduced herself in the welcome thread on the 90% Knitting board on Ravelry. So welcome, Tammy. I'm glad you're here. And welcome to everybody else, too. If you're new to the podcast, thanks so much for taking some time to check it out. If you've been following along for quite a while, then I'm glad to have you back. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I have some finished objects to talk about. That's very exciting, isn't it? I think so. Oh, wow. Oh, there they are. Okay. I'll show you the socks first because I can't remember exactly what point these were at last week when I showed them to you, but they're completely done now. So these are my Never Not Color socks. This was my 6th anniversary colorway this year, and it's just a plain stockinette sock, probably about a 6-inch cuff. I haven't measured. Slip stitch heel, and just regular foot and toe, and they're done. They're very matchy actually until excuse me, until you get to the toe of the second one. The toe of the first one ended up with a little bit of green, and the toe of the second one did not. And looking at it, I believe I started my toe decreases a little too soon on the second one. I think that's why it didn't go quite as far. Not a big deal. I don't care. I don't get too worked up over stuff like that. And the toe of my sock is going to be inside my shoe anyway. I had to pause because, number one, I had to cough. I don't know what was going on. Plus, my dog was having a fit because another dog and his person dared to walk on our road. Heaven forbid anybody be on the road in front of our house. Anyway, okay, so let's move on to my second finished object. It is the big squishy thing. Yay! The big squishy rib thing. If you remember, I cast this on with no real, it wasn't a pattern. I mainly wanted to knit something squishy and comfortable out of worsted weight yarn as comfort knitting, basically. So my vague plan that I had was to cast on all these stitches. I can't remember how many stitches. I have to count at some point, and I will put it in my project page, in the project notes once I do. I keep wanting to think it was maybe like, I don't know, 180 sort of sticks in my head, but I don't know that that's correct. I don't know. I'll figure it out, and I will put it in the project notes on the project page. Anyway, I cast on with this top color. Well, actually, I guess it was this way since I cast it on. No, I guess if you're knitting, oh gosh, I don't know. I cast on with this variegated color up here, which is my Rendezvous colorway on my cozy base, which is the 100% superwash merino. And I knit about 70% of that first ball of yarn before I started alternating to add in the electric purple, which is also on my cozy base. If you remember, I think I told you I had a little bit of issue trying to get this middle section where I was blending the two colors to do what I wanted it to do. And it still is not doing what I wanted it to do, but I'm happy with the result nonetheless. Essentially, I ended up doing basically what you do when you do a blueberry waffles sock pattern. It kind of alternates between knit stitches and ribbed stitches, or knit rounds and ribbed rounds. So it gives it a little bit of a more bumpy texture than just ribbing. It's kind of waffly, appropriately enough. And then once I did that and I got to the end of my variegated yarn, I only had a couple yards left really. I just did the rest of it in the 2x2 rib in the electric purple and finished it off. So I'm really happy with it. Again, I didn't have a plan. I just sort of wanted it to be a big squishy cowl. And I thought it might be okay to double, but when I put it on, I really like it like this. Now, it's big enough that I could probably pull it down over my shoulders and wear it sort of like a little ponchette or something. That's not my plan, though. I don't really want to do it that way. Although, if I pull it down just over the edges of my shoulders, it makes this sort of just blouse up a little bit. I really like this look. I think this will be super nice for with a coat on and just to have some extra warmth up here at the top. I really like this look a lot. And it's super comfortable and soft and squishy. But the other thing I did do with it, and I don't know if it'll work this time, it may have been like a one-shot deal, like I lucked out that it happened. When I double it, and I have obviously not woven in my ends, but when I doubled it, I could pull it up. Oh my hair is like having a fit here. I obviously did not straighten my hair today. It's humid. It's not worth it. But I can pull it up and kind of wear it as a hood. I really like this too. This was not the plan. Like when I first did it, when I was making it, that had not been part of my plan, but it worked out really, really well. Isn't it cute? Without the tail, of course, you know. I'll weave the tails in. But I really love how it turned out, and I love this option as much as I love the big squishy cowl option, even though it was very unintentional. So, wow, that did wonders for the hair. Okay, so it's finished. It used 2 complete balls of my cozy base, which is a little over 400 yards. Well, it's over 400 yards. I think it's just under 400 meters. So, you know, stash, we'll take it. I don't know that I will actually write that up as a pattern because, again, it's really just 2x2 rib with some, you know, little bit of modification to the rib in the middle as I alternated the colors, but it's fine. Oh my goodness, my hair. Seriously, it has been so humid this week. Any of the days that I've taken the time to straighten my hair, within 15 minutes, it doesn't even look like I've done anything to it. So I just didn't even bother today. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, with that big squishy thing, I should probably give it a better name than that. With the big squishy rib thing, that's better, and the socks, that brings my stash meter total up to 4,956 meters. I'm so close to 5,000, but I just couldn't get over it. Although technically, I probably am over it if you take into consideration the things that I have done that I will be able to count towards stash that I just have chosen not to add into the total yet because I want to add more to them, like my granny stripes blanket, you know, what I've added to that, and spinning that I have, that I know I'll have done but is not completely done yet. So there are a lot of things that will get added in. So I'm about halfway to my 10,000 meter goal for Stash Dash. Unfortunately, Stash Dash is over halfway over at this point, so that doesn't really bode well, but I'm hopeful. And again, if I don't meet that goal, I don't care. It's fine. I'd love to get over what I did last year, which was the 7,000 meter goal, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do that. So we'll see. I did work on some other projects, though, and the one I thought might be a finished object this week, but I just didn't get it completely done. But it's the Pixel Rise socks that I have been working on for quite a while now. I cast these on in early August last year, so they've been on the needles almost a year. And This was the first one, which I had finished. Like they both just need their heels at this point. I finished it, and then I started doing the second one, and then I let it languish like about here for quite a while. And then I finally got back to it and worked on it this week and finished it. Now, the thing was, I mismeasured how far I needed to do the foot in this pink. Um, I only did 4 inches from here. My markers, that's where I'm going to put my afterthought heel in. So from here to the toe, where I started the toe decreases, should have been 5 inches, but I only did 4. Remember, I was having an issue there for a while in the past year where I was not measuring correctly for my afterthought heels, and my socks were turning out to be too short. This was during that era. So basically, I did the second sock, and I did it correctly. And then I went back and I ripped out the toe and I just knit another inch of the foot and then re-knit the toe. So everything's good for those now. So they both just need their heels. And I have not decided yet if I'm going to do the blue for the heels as well, or I might pick another one of these colors. I really like this bright crazy green. Either that or the purple. One of those colors is going to be the heel. But I'm really happy with them. They're super long. From the heel, where the heel's going in up to the cuff is 9 inches. I never do 9-inch long socks or cuffs on my socks, but these are going to be quite warm, and they're heavy because they're color work, so it's all like double-stranded knitting in there. This is, again, I don't think I said, but it's the Pixel Rise pattern by Kemper Ray. I'm sort of calling these my Pixel Fall socks because I did mine top down instead of toe up. I believe the pattern was written to do the color work the entire way, like on the foot as well. I did not want to do that, and I could be misspeaking about that. It's been long enough since I actually read the whole pattern. I've mainly been looking at the chart, but I just wanted my feet to be stockinette, so that's why I used this pink. This is my bounce base in the fuchsia color, and all of these bright colors that I used for the color work. These are Nidian Color, one of her acoustic sock base mini sets. I used this yarn to make my lefty shawlette a couple years ago, and I had plenty left over, so now they've been used in these socks too. I still have some left over. Oh my gosh, there's probably this is the size of the balls left, so there's probably about, I would say, at least 10 grams. I mean, that's the blue one that I used for the heels. Like, that's got to be at least 15, maybe even 20 grams. I don't think I'm going to be using those for another big project at this point. They will probably find their way into my Granny Stripes blanket, I would think, at this point. That's my plan. So anyway, but they're coming along, and hopefully by next week they will be finished objects. Hopefully I'll be in the mood to do heels this week, because they're already up to, I think, 87 grams of yarn, which that's a lot. I often don't get an entire pair of socks completed reaching 87 grams of yarn. It's usually closer to somewhere between 65 and 75 grams. So yeah, I've made much bigger socks, so that'll be good. That'll be great for the stash dash total. So all right, I worked on those. The other thing I worked on that you're not going to see is the Afghan that I'm making for my son for Christmas. The big bulky weight Afghan. Why I thought it would be a great idea to work on a bulky weight Afghan in the middle of summer is beyond me. It's about to the 25% point of being finished, and I love how it's turning out. I think it looks fabulous, but it's hot, and it's about 19 inches long now, and it's unwieldy already, because it's big needles, so I'm working with bigger needles than I usually do. I think they're size 11s. Maybe they're even bigger. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm being a bad podcaster this week. But it's on my project page. So between the big needles, which I have to knit slower with because I'm just not as adept with big needles. I can't go fast. And then like turning the work back and forth, it's not something that's comfortable to work on in this heat at all. Even though the yarn is not itchy yarn, it's 100% acrylic. It's that, I don't remember the name of it, but it's from Pat Catan's, and it was a very affordable 100% acrylic yarn that will bode well for people who I'm not sure would want to hand wash an Afghan. Um, it's very soft, and I've told you, it's very soft, very cozy, squishy, but it's still heavy once you start getting skeins in it. It's got at least 3 full skeins worth of yarn in it at this point. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it is whenever you're holding it on your lap in the heat. So I have decided to set that aside and not work on that right now. I think that's my plan. I haven't officially hibernated it as a project on Ravelry, but in my mind it's in hibernation mode for the moment. It'll be perfect to work on when it starts getting cooler come September, I think. But since I don't have faith in myself in getting it actually completed during Stash Dash, I don't really want to waste my time working on it at this point in time when I know I can get it done this fall. So what I decided to do is I needed to replace that potential meterage for Stash Dash because apparently that's what I am motivated by. So I was looking through my projects, and I have a lot of projects on the go, but none that are mindless, and that was a nice mindless project. And then I remembered this. Do you remember this? I know some of you will because I've had questions about it. This big bias garter wrap that I started, oh my gosh, I think like January of 2016. I kind of forgot I even had it, to tell you the truth. It's been in a basket in my bedroom and had a bunch of stuff piled up on top of it. So out of sight, out of mind. And when I remembered it yesterday, I thought I could pull that out, although I did not remember it being very far along. So again, I started thinking, I don't know if I'd actually get it done or not in time, but I pulled it out and I realized it is actually quite far along. The long edge there on the bottom where the fringe is about 45 inches. And my goal is to have it as long as my wingspan, which is 64 inches. Yeah, that's right. So I only have 19 inches to go, and then the decreases to make the other point. I think that's pretty doable, honestly, because it's just garter stitch, and it's not really that many stitches, especially when you consider how many stitches were in that big Afghan. And it's on smaller needles that I can knit really fast with this. So this is my new plan. I'm going to try to finish this during Stash Dash. I'm using 8 different yarns and just doing 2 garter ridges. I was trying to follow the same order of yarns. It's been goofed up a couple of times. Plus there was one spot here where I forgot I was doing 2 garter ridges and only did 1 garter ridge of each color. It's fine though. I like how it looks. It looks sort of rustic and fun, and I'm fine. I know I'm going to run out of some yarns prior to all the other ones being done. I'm not sure how that will play out in the whole rest of the length of the wrap, but it'll be okay. I will make it work. So that is back on the front burner after a very, very long period of hibernation. What's in here? Oh, that's not really even a thing yet. Sorry, that's not a project. I do have one other thing, and it's funny, I just cast it on this morning while I was sitting on the phone with my daughter. I have a show on Saturday, and I have about a billionty things I have to get done today in preparation for that show. It's only Thursday, but I've got other stuff going on tomorrow that I would like to not have to do much yarny stuff during the day. So today is my day. I have to finish up all this show stuff today. So what do I really want to do? I want to cast on all the things. That's all I want to do. I just want to cast on new projects. And so as I was leaving the mountain house this morning, I ran in my office up there and I grabbed like yarn for 3 different projects. Like, what am I thinking? However, I was on the phone with my daughter this morning after I got here, and we were sitting there and I thought, you know what? I'm going to cast on a pair of socks while I'm talking to her. So that's what I did. That's as far as I got. It's just some 2x2 ribbing. And this is some Patton's Croy. This is actually the yarn I took with me, I think, last... Oh, was it? Yeah, this was the yarn I took with me last fall when we went on our canoe trip up in Canada. And I took it along. However, I only took US 1 needles, not realizing how heavy Patton's Croy was. and I was getting like super bulletproof fabric. As it turned out, I really did not have much time to knit on that canoe trip anyway, so I think it was like the first night maybe I knit a little bit and then said nope. So that's why it's all wound around the ball, because I ripped out what I did start, and I just didn't do any more. I didn't start it again. But I decided that these will be socks for my middle child, my younger son, because he loves hand knit socks and he's quite knit worthy. And this is a nice heavy yarn, and I think it'll serve him well. And he loves orange, so that's a win too. I've knit him orange socks before, but I think he'll be okay getting more of them. So this is the Patton's Croy. It is color Canyon Colors is what it says. Number 1506. So they're very pretty. I love the colors. I love how Patton's Croy knits up, the way the colors shift. But basically right now I've got 72 stitches on. These are US 1.5 needles, which is what, 2.75? 2.5. And I'm debating about doing just the whole cuff ribbed or just doing ribbing and then going to stockinette. I'll probably do that because I think that's what he prefers, is a stockinette sock. But I think I may do a little bit longer ribbing than I usually do, because I only usually do about 9 or 10 rounds of ribbing, but I may do 15-ish, you know, around there for these. I don't know. We'll see how I feel like doing it as I go. But that's a new cast on, and this doesn't even have a project page on Ravelry yet. I'll have to remedy that soon. Look at my cute new bag, though. This is a Bling Your String bag from Erin, who is part of the Knitting at Tiffany's podcast. I just got this in the mail this week, and it is so adorable. Look at these owls. I've never had one of her bags before, and they are so well made. Her attention to detail is astounding. Look how she does her little stop for the pool is this little fabric bit. Really nice little button clasp there. I don't know if that's called a clasp, but button closure. A nice hand or wrist strap. And then she puts this cute little clippy thing on here, which her bags include stitch markers. A set of 5, so there's 4 markers and then like a beginning of round marker, which I think is so nice. And the inside fabric is this fun stripe, but I just love these owls. I just thought they were so adorable. So it's getting its maiden voyage with my new socks. Okay, I think that's everything that I've worked on. I haven't gotten any more spinning done per se, although I did find, as I was rooting through my office looking for some other things, I found another bobbin, a full bobbin of that blue BFL. I have no recollection of when I actually finished that bobbin, but it was kind of exciting to find it because that means I now have 3 full bobbins of that fiber already finished, and I can go ahead and ply that because that will give me another like 300 yards for Stash Dash right there. I know, just from one skein, somewhere around 300. I still would love to be able to finish that blue BFL before the end of Stash Dash, because then I will count all of it that I've done, because it'll be one completed spinning project. And you get to count your singles length, so that will give me a lot of meterage. But if I don't get the whole thing done, I feel like I will only count what I have actually done during Stash Dash, what I've finished during Stash Dash, rather than what I had also finished before, if that makes any sense. Because if I get the whole project done, then I can count everything, because that's the way Stash Dash works. So fingers crossed I can still get the rest of that spinning done. If I don't, I don't. But that's kind of a goal. It's good to have goals. I wanted to mention the pattern that I was working on last week, and that I had showed you the samples, the outdoorsy headband and neck warmer. I had really hoped to have that published by this week and possibly to have some kits up in the shop. Not happening. No problem with it. I mean, the pattern itself is actually ready to go. I still need photographs. I've done 2 separate photo shoots for this thing, and I'm not happy with either of them. I'm hoping to do a third this weekend, and hopefully the third time will be the charm. But on top of that, I've just been so inundated with other work that I felt like I was really trying to rush getting that pattern finished and up. And I don't want to do that because I don't want there to be errors or mistakes with it. I would rather just take my time and get it done correctly. So I apologize if you're waiting for it. I promise it will be going up as soon as I can get it up there, hopefully by next week. If not, then definitely the week after. But yeah, it's not going to be up right now. I will not have kits for it at my show this week. That's the one thing. I got to a point this week where I had to decide, okay, something's got to go for this show. And like I had this big black cloud looming over me about this pattern because I not only wanted to be able to release it for you guys, but I wanted to be able to have kits for it at my show. And it was just piling up, like all the things that needed to be done to reach that end, just they weren't going to happen, not with me maintaining my sanity. So stay tuned for that. It will be coming. It's just a little bit delayed. So we've still got the A Year in the Life of a Knitter knit along going on. We are in July, which is our first summer month. Our focus is stockinette stitch this month, and the July challenge is Christmas in July. So your gift knitting for July for any winter holiday or winter birthday. But it has to be gift knit. All of the other guidelines for the July challenge are up in the Ravelry group under the thread for the July challenge. So I will let you just check that out if you're interested. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the summer quarter thread, or you can PM me on Ravelry, however you would like to do it, and I'll be happy to answer them. Tour de Fleece is still going on. I believe it ends on Sunday. Don't take my word for that. If you're actually seriously doing it, you might want to look that up. Although if you're seriously doing it, you probably already know when it ends. I have not been able to keep up as much as I've wanted to. I feel bad, but I've really enjoyed seeing everybody else's spinning. We have a nice little group of people having conversation in the Tour de Fleece thread on the 90% knitting group. So please join us there if you've been spinning. I'd love to see what you've been spinning. I can live vicariously through you. I wanted to mention a couple of podcasts to you. My friend Darlene, who is Darlene from Bags by Awesome Granny, she and a friend of hers, Carrie, have started their own podcast. And Darlene got a hold of me and she's like, hey, you know, if you could mention it on the podcast, if you watch it and you like it, I'd appreciate it. And so I did. And it was wonderful. They did a great job. I mean, it was their first episode. I don't know if they have a second episode out yet or not. I have not been watching a ton of podcasts lately. I've been listening to like audio podcasts, but not watching video ones. It's weird because that's the opposite of how I usually am. But it's just worked better for my schedule because I can listen to the audio ones in my car. Yeah, so anyway, her podcast is called Knitters Gotta Knit. And it's very fun. They do a nice job. So check them out. And the other one was another longtime viewer of the podcast, Michael, and his friend Katie. They have started a podcast, and Michael got a hold of me and let me know about it and asked if I could mention it on the podcast. So I'm happy to do that. It's called Movie Knit Dye. DYE, and they have a horror movie focus on their podcast. So if you're into horror movies, that might be something to check out. But of course, they also talk about knitting, and I think they have some plans to do some dyeing as well. He did mention that the first episode had some sound issues, and indeed it does. I noticed that when I watched, but the subsequent episodes seemed better, so you might want to check those out. But yeah, I've mainly been listening to audio podcasts in my car because I've found they're an excellent thing I can download and listen on my phone while I'm doing all my driving back and forth to the mountain house and back. And it doesn't cost me Audible credits. So, because I was burning through Audible credits again for a while. I probably actually have a couple stored up now, though. And the podcast that I've been listening to the most lately has been Yarns at Yin-Hoo. Now, I'm up to date on Yarns at Yin-Hoo because it's one that I do listen to fairly regularly. Well, actually, I do listen to it regularly, and I have for probably the last year or so. But Sarah, who's Sarah Pomegranate on pretty much all the social media, she does Yarns at Yinhu, and she is lovely. She's just a very calm, um, mindful kind of podcaster. Like, you know, that she just comes across as if she's very relaxed, and that has an effect on me. I love that kind of podcast. I've mentioned that before because I don't feel like I have that effect on people necessarily. I probably am like, you know. But no, I love Sarah's podcast, and she's not just all about knitting. I mean, she does talk about knitting, but she also talks about and other fibers like knitting, spinning. She does some crochet. I think she does some weaving. But she also does this thing called Power Pantry. So there's like cooking stuff going on. She sews. She is I was going to say literature. I meant to say literature. English teacher. I believe she's a high school English teacher. And so it's also got some books and reading kind of stuff. She reads poetry on the podcast sometimes. It's just so delightful. I love listening to Sarah's podcast. And Sarah is very good at describing what she is showing, essentially. Because, I mean, on a video podcast, I hold something up and say, here it is. This is the thing. Like a big squishy rib thing. That tells you a lot, right? Whereas she is just very adept at using her words very thoughtfully and describing things really well, which is such a plus with audio podcasts. I mean, you really kind of need to be able to do that. And I have been trying to be a little bit more mindful about that because even though I'm a video podcast, I know that when I do tend to watch my video podcasts, not mine, but other people's, I'm often working or doing other things, so I'm not necessarily staring at the screen. So it's very helpful if whatever's being shown is also being described. I have a long way to go to get up to Sarah's caliber of doing that very well, but it's a goal. It's another goal. Another person who does that very, very well is Jen from the Down Cellar Studio podcast. She is very good at describing her projects and in great detail so you can visualize them. Anyway, so if you're looking for audio podcasts, I would highly recommend Yarns at Yinhu. What I've done is I went back to the very beginning. Like I started with episode 1, and I have been listening to all of her podcasts since then. She's up in the 170s now. She began, I believe, in the fall of 2013. So it's been a lot of podcasts to listen to, but it's just been so enjoyable. And that's been my car listening for the last few weeks. I've just had such a wonderful time. It's made me sad that I wasn't listening to it consistently prior to then, like in real time, because then I could have taken part in some of the knit-alongs and cook-alongs and things that she's done and read-alongs. But, you know, she's still going, and I still enjoy her podcast very much. So check that out. Check out Jen, too, of the Down Cellar Studio podcast. You've heard me talk about her before. I often sponsor her knit-alongs and things. So, yeah, just some good listening if you are in the mood for something to listen to as opposed to necessarily watch. Let's move on to 10%. My week after I podcasted last week got a little bit funky. If you follow me on Instagram, you know my husband was in an accident on a motorcycle. Well, actually, technically my scooter. It was not his fault. He was being tailgated by some guy who was basically just behaving like a jerk for many, many miles. And even when he had the opportunity to pass him, he wouldn't. And Bill was not driving like excessively slowly on purpose. He was following other traffic. The guy rear-ended him, and the scooter is totaled. Bill, thankfully, is not. He wears all the gear all the time. His helmet is trashed. His jacket that he had on is trashed. His gloves look like they've been through a cheese grater, and basically that's what asphalt does. He slid and spun, and the bike went topsy-turvy down the road about 75 feet. but he's okay. I mean, he's fine. He was fine then. Like, he sustained no major injuries, just a lot of bruising and a lot of soreness. He's still sore. And it's funny, the thing that's not funny, but ironic is, like, the thing that's sore most is he bit his tongue in the process. I mean, I guess he's lucky he didn't bite part of it off, because I've heard of that happening in accidents too. But his tongue is still quite sore, and it's changed the way things taste to him. But he's doing okay. But that was a little bit of drama that I was not expecting, nor did I need last week. But we got through it. So I'm glad he's okay. And thank you to everybody who expressed concern for him when I posted about that on Instagram. But actually, I was at the hospital when I finished my big squishy rib thing, because we had to go to the ER. The EMTs checked him out on the spot, and they said, well, usually any motorcycle accidents, we take you to the hospital in the ambulance just to get checked out as a precaution. And he's like, I'm fine. I got to get this bike. You know, he called me basically to come with the trailer out to the end of our road, because that's where he was. He was turning onto our road when this happened. And to come out, he said, you know, I was rear-ended. We need to get the bike on the trailer. He didn't tell me that when I got there was going to be the fire truck, the ambulance, the EMT, and a dozen people. That he didn't explain to me. And so I had gotten home early that day, and I had already, like, taken a shower, and I was in shorts and a halter top with no bra. Okay, thankfully it was black. My hair looked basically like this because I had just let it dry. I'd already taken my contacts out, so I had my glasses on. I'm in flip-flops. That's how I showed up to the scene of the accident. Oh my gosh, I was mortified. I walked around like this a lot. And he's like, okay, well, we need to go to the ER for me to get checked out when we leave here. And I'm like, well, we're going to take the trailer back to the house first, right? And he's like, well, no, we can just go straight there. And I'm like, I'm not dressed to go to the emergency room. I would like to put something warmer on. I don't have a bra on, is what I said to him. He's like, oh, and he started laughing. And so we did go back. And actually what I did not say is, and I don't have any knitting with me. I know how to do emergency rooms. You don't go to an emergency room without at least one knitting project, if not two. I took two, which was good because I did end up finishing the big squishy thing while I was there. And then I moved on to the pixel socks, which I proceeded to do 3 color repeats totally incorrectly because I didn't bother to get the chart out of the bag, and I was just trying to read prior knitting and messed it up. But it kept me busy, so I ripped it all out the next day and started over, and it was fine. But yeah, so that was the scooter incident. Worse things. It could have been so much worse, but it wasn't, thankfully. So that was really the only craziness this past week. This weekend, again, I have a show this weekend, and it's also the weekend that my ex-husband's father he's turning 80. I think that's next week, though. But they're having a big surprise party for him this weekend, which I only know about because my mother told me. I'm like, how do you know this? She's like, oh, well, Zach told me. That's my oldest son. I'm like, okay, I don't know anything. Well, my daughter and my oldest son are coming up for this party. I'm not even supposed to know that because they wanted to surprise everybody. But since my oldest son told my mother didn't either remember or didn't know that it was supposed to be a surprise for me too, that they were showing up, she said something to me. And I told my daughter, I'm like, you're coming up? And she's like, how do you know this? It's actually good that I know because her bedroom was totally uninhabitable because it had all of my yarny stuff in it. It still had like all the Christmas wrapping paper and stuff in there from December. So yeah, I at least had the chance to, make her room sleepable for her. And I went grocery shopping, so there's food. But the thing that's made this difficult is that my other son, Chris, who lives here, he's not supposed to know, and he still doesn't know. So it's like I've known this for a month that she's coming home, and I've had to like keep it secret, which has been so hard. And I've had to remind Bill, like, he doesn't know. You can't say anything about when they're coming up. But anyway, they're leaving. They're on the road today now, and they should be here this evening. So I am super excited to see both of them. Zach hasn't been here in a few years. I think the last time he was up here was for Emma's high school graduation. So that's been a few years. And it's just nice to see Emma. She hasn't been home since Christmas, and I don't know when she'll get to come home again. I'm hoping she'll be able to get off work, at the holidays this year too. But now that she's done with school and will be out in the working world, you don't know. Probably, maybe not. So anyway, it'll be lovely to have them home. She basically has her entire weekend booked with seeing friends and such. So she has marked out time for me on Sunday, which is lovely. And Zach, I'm hoping to be able to take him up to the mountain house tomorrow. That's why I would like to have all my work done today. So yeah, looking forward to it. It'll be nice having them home, even if it is just for the weekend. And that's all that's going on there. Other than the show this weekend, which again, it's the Gypsy, Stardust, Yarn, and Fiber Festival, which is on Saturday, the 22nd, from 10 to 4. It's in Harrison City, which is very close to me, Harrison City, PA, in the Harrison Room, which is like the hall that the fire hall has, the event hall. It's actually a very nice facility. So I will be there. I say actually, as in like, I don't know about where you're from, but like fire hall wedding receptions are a big thing around here. And many fire halls in our area in Pennsylvania do have very nice dedicated banquet kind of hall facilities, which also house like, bingo and other things like that during the week. But I don't know if that's a thing everywhere. I don't know if fire departments across the country also have like event halls that are specific and very nice. So that's why I said that. It's, a nice event hall as opposed to just like the back room in the fire hall and the trucks are right there. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm hoping I'm not offending anybody who does firework because I don't mean to. But so that's where the event will be. I am looking forward to that. So please stop by if you are in the area. It will be a very nice event. There are lots of wonderful vendors, and I will try to remember to put the link for that also in my episode thread post, even if I don't get any other show notes up. The last thing I wanted to mention to you, well, not really the last thing. We've still got the Summertime Cow going on in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group. This is the semi-solids month, so go check that out if you're interested. And if you're knitting anything using Fiber Nymph Dye Works semi-solids this month that you cast on this month and you'll have done by the end of the month, it may be eligible for that knit along, so check that out. We've got lots of fun prizes. Speaking of prizes, I have mailed out all of the prizes that I announced prize winners for last week, except for the stitch marker winner and the winner of the bag that will have the coordinating sock blank with it. I still have to make those 2 items, but they will be going out hopefully next week. That's my plan. Okay, lastly, I just wanted to remind you that I do have the pre-orders up for the Holiday Countdown mini collections. My goodness, you guys really, really seem to like those. I've gotten a lot more orders than I was anticipating getting this soon. I honestly didn't know how they were going to go over, but you guys have been very enthusiastic, and I would say that the interest in them has been fairly well spread out over all of the different options that I have. So those pre-orders are still available through next Wednesday, which is the 26th. And for these first 2 weeks of pre-orders, they are marked at a 10% discount. So if you are thinking about getting one, this would be a great time to do it while they're still at the discounted price. I am going to put them up for pre-order one more time the very first week in September. They will not be discounted then. They'll be at their full price then. So I hope you might check that out because I would love to give you something fun to enjoy throughout the month of December or leading up to whichever holiday you want to use them for. I'm trying to keep that pretty open and usable for just about anybody. Okay, that is everything I have to share with you this week. Please have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and I will be back with you next week, and I will be able to let you know when my next shop update will be at that point as well. So have fun, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.